Hi everyone, and welcome to our Funded Star Trader interview. Here at BrightFunded, you can trade up to $400,000 on our Funded Star accounts after passing evaluation. My name is BC Richfield, and today I have the pleasure of hosting Luca. The show is packed with great content, and I'm sure you'd enjoy it as much as I did. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the likes, and share some love in the comments for Luca. Welcome everyone, BC Richfield here on behalf of BrightFunded, and I'm very, very excited to introduce you today to Luca on our Star Trader Funded interview. So without further ado, let me bring Luca in and we'll find out a little bit more about him. Welcome, Luca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Very, very welcome. Do you want to tell our traders a little bit and our viewers a little bit about you?
Okay, so I'm Luca, I'm from Italy. I've been trading for 7 to 8 years now, I think almost 8 years. I've been trading prop firm for 2 years, and that's basically it.
Awesome. So you've been with us 2 years. That's fantastic. What part of Italy are you from, if you don't mind? And I'm happy if you say north or south. The reason I'm asking is
center north.
Fantastic. I have a lot of family in Milan, so I'm sure they'll be watching it with a lot of interest as well. Fantastic. So Luca, I'd really like to know a little bit before we really kind of dive into your trading. I'd love to know a little bit about your life before trading, and maybe a couple of the things that attracted you to trading in the first place.
Well, before trading, like I said, 8 years ago, I was basically just first year in college. So my life before that was just a high schooler, just going to school and have some sport and have a, I think, pretty ordinary life. Nothing crazy. Then by the end of high school, I need to decide what to do, with my life, if I wanted to get a job, if I go to college or something. So I decided I want to be a notary. I decided to go to be a notary. Now, I don't know if people know what notary is.
Maybe basically know a little bit. Let them know a little bit for us.
Yeah, notary just does public acts, and it just acts kind of in behalf of government. So, and it's very, at least in Italy, every country has its own notary acts differently, has different status. Like in America, it's not that important. Like in America, you can have lawyers. Like lawyers in America are more important than notary, or kind of same level. I don't know, but in Italy, it's beyond. Like there's no comparison. Like average lawyer is like earning 1K a month or 2K a month. Average notary is earning 20K a month. So it's
wow. So a big jump.
Yeah. That's why I chose it, right? But this is average, average income, which means from 60-year-old notary to 28 out of college.
Big difference.
The median, the one straight out of college, earning, I think, 3K a month or something like that on average. And that's because, whatever, they have a special...
experience as well, I suppose, over time, right? So it doesn't always paint the full...
There's a special committee of notaries or something that you're not allowed to earn less than 3K a month, something like that. So 3K is the minimum. And then, of course, as you get more experience, you might get a bigger offers, more clients, or assigned to promote it to a bigger city, so earn more money. So by the end of your career, you earn more money per month, right? That's why the average comes out to 20K.
I mean, that's quite an interesting pivot, I suppose, from the world of kind of law and legal stuff. A lot of friends that I studied with when I was younger, to then go into trading. What was the big attraction from, obviously, because you've got a very, very, I want to say, more of a safe world in something like if you have legal qualifications, you're a professional notary or for example, versus, throwing yourself into a very uncertain world, a very turbulent world, if you like, with trading.
Yeah, like notary, I did my calculations. I don't know if people want to know it, but you need to go 5 years into law school. Wow. Then you need 18 months of internship, 6 of which you can overlap with the last year of university. So if you do everything perfectly, like if you study law school and if you study notarial acts together in 5 years, and you overlap the last 6 months with 18 of internship, you have 6 years period of studying pretty intensely, I guess.
It's a long time.
And then you need to have win a public, I don't know what's called in English, public concourse, public test, how it's called. Yeah. And then you need to win that. And you are competing also against lawyers who have been 34 years. So you have much more time and experience. Yeah. So if you win that, I think it's first it's like a written test. Then if you pass that, you need to grade them. And then if you pass it, you need to go for an oral test. And then you need to pass that. And then once you pass that, they need to assign you to an office. So the whole heater, if it's perfectly aligned, like if you do everything perfectly, and as soon as you're done with it, there is a public contest for you ready. It takes like 7 to 8 years.
And that's if, like you said, there's a big if in there, right? The caveat, if everything aligns. Yeah. So
everything, you need to pass, like you need to graduate from school while studying law and notarial acts and overlap internship, and then the public concourse, the public test is available in few months in as soon as you stop. Otherwise, you can wait 6 months, 1 year. So
it's a long time, right? Because you've got student debt, very little coming in.
There is a context every 1.5 years, I think. So,
do you think that kind of studious nature that you kind of developed studying something like law helped you in your transition towards trading? Because I think I imagine most, if not all, traders would agree to me that it's much more of a data-based game than I think a lot of people think when they're attracted to this industry. Understanding strategies, time, a lot.
So I wish I was more disciplined, especially in the start, because high school I wasn't really disciplined. Didn't really care about high school classes, let's say. So I didn't develop this discipline. Going into college instead, I wanted to really focus, and I didn't want to waste so much time studying, like 8 years. But in Italy, at least I couldn't find. I don't think you can finish university faster than 5 years. I don't think it's possible. So it's either this ITER, you follow all this ITER of 8 years to be a notary, or you find something else. But I didn't know what else could I do.
So what kind of introduced you to trading then? It was very similar to me. I had no idea about this in school. Went through college. It wasn't something that was promoted. It was actually years later that I found this, and then had to kind of stumble into a world of very questionable resources. Lots of people selling courses. There's not really kind of like a unified course as such, like you would get with law, for example. So you have to rely on teaching yourself almost.
When you go to law school, you have a clear path defined ahead of you. You just follow it. You just trust them. It's the law. It's written there. It's very, very objective. You just do what you have to do, and you ask your teachers are good class. How can I say? They are certified teachers. They actually knows the law. So you just listen to them. You ask them questions. You know that the information you're getting is mostly truth.
And consistent, right? That other people are learning the same information, right? At other colleges, other universities, right? So it's about how good you can make yourself, or how well you can interpret that.
You are the defining factor, because info is the same. So I was like, okay, this is the path ahead of me. I have 7 to 8 years ahead of me to then earn, like I said, 3K fresh out, and then maybe hoping to eventually get higher and higher. But it's a career, right?
So was it the safety of that career maybe that appealed? Because was it the security, I suppose, would be a better word for that career, right? Because I have family that live in Italy. I come from London, and that's why it's getting into good high earning jobs isn't an easy thing. It's not a route that everybody has access to, right? So if you have that opportunity sometimes, then it's a very sensible thing to do. Like, law, medicine, for example, those are a lot of upfront work, a lot of schooling, right? But at the end of it, you're in a very good professional career where you lay that foundation of stability, where pivoting very hard into something like trading is almost doing the opposite of that. You're really taking your own future in your hands, everything. So what is it about trading that when you came to that, let's say, a crossroads in your life and you were deciding whether to move ahead with the legal aspects or to take this really, really big jump, a brave jump, I suppose, in a lot of ways, into trading, something you knew very little about? What was the catalyst for that? What made you what attracted you to it and made you really feel like that was the future for you?
Well, I guess it was a little bit more ambitious than just ambition. Yeah. And then the money aspect also, I want to earn more than notary, especially at 28, 29, out of school. I want to earn more. I knew there were people younger than me, that will earn more than me if I went into the notary direction. So I wanted to, why not me, right? I had 8 years. Like, can I do in 8 years better than I would do otherwise following school path? So I thought about it and I say, let's try. I think I can. And so I started focusing on trading. And by the way, it was not a completely pivot. Like, there was an overlap of time where I was like reading about trading, but I was still at college.
Yeah. And then, you just throw yourself into a trading career, buy your first book and just go and decide to open it. You still had a previous interest, right? And was that interest garnered from the rise of cryptocurrency, for example, or was it that you were just attracted to the nature of trading and traditional markets?
It was pretty random. So I have a brother older than me, and he was just looking for some side hustles, I guess. So on his search for side hustles, he found this. I think one day it just came to me. It was like, you should make a laptop. It's like, oh, look at this. If you guess the color of the next candle, you can make money. I think it was like binary options or something. So it was like, I got hooked. Was interesting. How can you make money out of it? And then he said the phrase like, oh, but I'm not gonna try this because only 20% of people make money out of this. So he told me, like, why would 20% of people teach others? But in my head, it was like, knowing notary numbers, how many people pass notary and get to law to school, pass and get notary, it was like 20%. It's pretty big number.
Yeah.
In my head. I mean, it turns out 20% of traders don't make money, so that was.
It's a good way to look at it, though. It's a good way to look at it, like looking at it rather than, okay, maybe it's a small percentage, but actually that small percentage represents a lot of people, right? And there's a lot of outliers in there as well.
I can guarantee that 20% of people who try trading don't end up profitable.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's pretty much a guarantee. I mean, so, okay, it's interesting really, because I suppose maybe similar to myself, you were already in another career or pursuing another career when you kind of found a passion for trading, and then kind of developed that later on, right? So you're obviously, you're a very successful trader over here with us at BrightFunded. You've been with us a few years now, I believe. Are you mainly focused on Forex pairs? Do you like the indices? Do you trade any cryptocurrency at all? What are your favorite kind of pairs that you trade?
I generally, because I trade intraday, I don't care really about what I'm trading. Just has to satisfy a few conditions, which is volatility and low cost of execution relative to the volatility. So it turns out indices right now are very good candidates for that. So Dow, NASDAQ, and that. Yeah, some brokers even have low spread for the FTSE, So some depends on the broker. Some in this case prop firms, because now I'm mainly trading with prop firms. Some prop firms are okay to trade FTSE with. Some prop firms it's impossible.
Yeah, because the spread is just terrible, right?
Yeah, as long as the costs relative to the volatility are low, to me, and the market is liquid, to me there is no, like, you have to move following price action. like price action that is dictated by underlying liquid asset. So that's all that really matters to me. It translates to indices mainly nowadays. But I also trade, euro dollar and for sure gold, but
good liquidity, right, in the market.
It's a little bit higher time frames, a little bit higher average trade,
Nice. I can relate to that. I'm an intraday trader as well. Liquidity is big. I almost entirely trade the NASDAQ, S&P 500, Dow, for example. Hugely liquid markets, great volatility. And obviously, like you said, as long as you can find a broker, I myself trade with BrightFunded as well. As long as you can find a broker that has the good spreads, and like you say, that the cost is reasonable enough, because getting in and out on very small time frames, for any of our viewers that aren't necessarily aware of that, something I get asked a lot in coaching sessions that I hold is, well, hang on, if I can make these kind of trades and this amount of trades in a day, why would I swing trade, right, and take days and weeks for one trade to play out? And people don't always equate the percentages of volatility, right, the size of the move. So I think that's really, really important when you're considering that as a day trader. Now, I'm glad you said that, actually, because a lot of people actually recently kind of steering clear of the indices a little bit because of people feeling that on the higher time frames they're quite overextended. But I think they're a really, really fair kind of reflection of market conditions. I do occasionally dabble into some crypto as well, and I do really like trading cryptocurrency, but I find that sometimes obviously you can see what happens to Bitcoin, and then the rest of the market can really tank with it. So I am always really encouraging to people, especially when you're finding a good prop firm, to find other avenues that you can go after as well, because you don't want to commit yourself necessarily to one market, especially one that's so kind of aligned with itself. So I think, my next question actually coming onto it was looking a bit more about your kind of trading journey, right? But I think we've kind of covered a lot of that with the viewers. So I think I'd really love to know about, at what point in your kind of career, at what point did you find that consistency where you kind of said to yourself, do you know what, I can do this day in and day out? Because I know a lot of people, especially a lot of people I've worked with over the years, would say that, they will see something, a new method, a new trading strategy, a new style, and they'll become distracted and start following that, rather than finding something that suits them, suits their personality, suits the time frame that they can bring to trading. And I think when you do that, I think it brings a very different view onto trading. So what was your experience with this? What would you say was the moment that you really found your style, your strategy, and that consistency to really become a professional in this industry?
So when I started trading, when I started learning about trading, I would use mainly, I think it was Forex Factory. And I was reading a lot of threads there, and books that they were either sharing or recommending. But initially, I was reading and learning about strategies with indicators, right? So I will learn like some indicators now, I don't know, the MACD or Bollinger Bands, or some custom indicators. But the thing is, after I couldn't find consistency, even though consistency profit, while I was using those notions, and I think I was doing nothing wrong, I was following what the guy in the thread was saying, I would change strategy, right? But once you change strategy, all your notions that you had before about the other indicator were useless. Because now this other guy was using another indicator. So pretty much all of it was useless. Sometimes they would use a strategy, they would have a strategy that uses an indicator with some price action reading. So sometimes that could, I could still keep it, that price action knowledge, on to the next one. But after a while, I was done with indicators, because not to mention custom indicators, like you need to use exactly that custom indicator to analyze the market. I didn't like it at all. So at some point I was like, I'm just gonna learn anything, any strategy that I can find was using only candlesticks, So I pivoted into price action only, no indicators, just price action. So if I would need to jump from strategy to strategy, I would still have knowledge from the previous candlestick
and
analysis.
still building that knowledge base all the time, right? So and I think what you said earlier, I think resonates with a lot of our viewers, right? Which is that beginning of that journey where you find one indicator that seems to have that magic answer, right? And then you see someone else with an indicator that seems to have that magic answer, and that you're kind of jumping from strategy to strategy. The problem with that a lot of the time is that the data that you've collected, you know, the experience that you've gained that's tied to that such specific and, like you say, custom strategy, moving to another one, you're not then kind of developing that. Where I think one thing that you can always say about price action is that you always have like an underlying foundation, right? You always have something that you can build on, something else that you can learn. And whether you're somebody that uses indicators to add confluence to that or not, then that's absolutely fine. But I think you've always got something that you can continue to build on when you look at price action at its core. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. And at what point would you say, was it then when you really dived into learning price action that you then became comfortable enough to make this a consistent career?
Yeah, like after I was reading a lot of strategy about price action, I was also combined with the fact that I spent a lot of time watching charts myself, only candlesticks. I started to kind of develop my own analysis, my own thoughts, right? And then that's when I was like, you know what, maybe I should just try to develop my own analysis, you know, instead of listening to others. Because at some point, I just couldn't find anyone that could provide proof that they were actually profitable. It just didn't exist. There was always some kind of reason. There was always some kind of, I don't know, excuse, I guess, for them not to show any real proof that they actually make money. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, with all this knowledge that I have and time that I spent on charts, I'm just gonna try to develop my own analysis, my own view of the market. And it's kind of intimidating, I guess, because when you're starting out, you are basically competing. Like, there is this phrase that it's a zero-sum game. So you're basically competing with institutions, quants, high-frequency trading. They have an edge. They have an edge in speed and information. They have teams of people who earns a lot of money, which means unless the company is operating at a loss, you know, they bring more money to the company. So that's some high-level competition. So it's kind of intimidating,
right? You're fighting against lots of resources, lots of well-funded companies. Like you say, you've got to have that. But do you not think that was maybe the turning point psychologically as well, when you start to kind of believe in yourself, your own systems, right? Not have that reliance on anybody else?
I mean, after a few months, when you start making consistent trades and you see that you have a positive expectation, and at one point, and it's rare, but at one point I won 13 trades in a row, right? 1-to-1 risk to reward. And I was like, okay, this is lucky, super lucky, but it's so incredibly, either I'm incredibly lucky, or at least I'm going to have at least a 50% win rate with a 1 to 2. Like, at least there is some kind of little edge behind this, you know? If it was completely random, 50-50 minor commissions and spread and costs, so even less than 50-50, how lucky should I have been to win 13 in a row? There has to be, I don't expect to have 90 win rate, 80 or 70 win rate even. Just, there has to be at least a 55 to 60 win rate behind this system if I was able to win 13 in a row. This kind of gave me confidence. So yeah, not because I don't believe anyone who says they have 90% win rate. Or even 80, just.
And it's all relevant, right? I think it's all subjective, because it's over what time period, it's what system you trade, it's your profit over time, your P&L at the end of the day. I think you have, you know, for me over the years, being part of and being exposed to some real kind of high win rate systems, you know, the issue you have, typically the higher the win rate, the more you're giving up your return on the risk, right? So you're gaining smaller percentages. So you're so exposed to larger potential periods of drawdown. So I think when you're looking at it over a period of time, like you say, that's when the consistency washes through. I mean, is that kind of system, that 13 wins, And it's entirely possible and probable as well with a system like that, because you'll find that over time, right, you'll have other periods of drawdown, consistent losses that balance those figures out. But when you see something like that, right, like you said, there's something in there. There's something in there that, 13 trades in a row can't just be luck, right? Like you said, that there's some substance in there.
Yeah. I mean, it could be luck, but the probability is very low. So it's like
very low, yeah.
Maybe there is an edge, Maybe there is a tiny edge under this huge luck. So, but this was kind of what gave me the initial kind of confidence. Then, of course, I had a month of data. I was like, okay, there is an edge, there is something. So that was just the initial moment when I was like, okay, maybe I have something.
Brilliant. I mean, does that still play a part in your system today?
What?
So I know it's hard to say, right, but that kind of, when you found that kind of edge that you had in that system, right, be that whatever it might be that being a certain volume breakout, or be that a certain trading pattern or fractal or whatever it is you were applying at that time, would that still make up the core of the strategy that you trade today, or was it fundamental at how you've developed the new strategies that you trade?
No, I still use those concepts, just just price action. I trade basically every I just how can I explain? I just analyze, categorize the market conditions, and then apply setups based on that. So I trade I have setups for any sideways market.
So ranging, trending, bullish, bearish, those kind of things. You basically understand that when you look at your higher time frame analysis, you then lay a set of conditions on, and then you fit the strategy that's been proven over time to those conditions, and you would trade that.
Yeah. First, I need a strategy to analyze the market. What kind of market are we having? And then I just have setups to use in that kind of markets. So I trade everything, long, short, of course, and then breakouts or reversals, pullbacks. I just have a lot of setups.
And kind of highlighting those conditions is kind of key to that, right? To saying, okay, are we currently trending? Are we ranging, right? Looking at that, looking at the key points of reversal, liquidity, and bits and pieces like that as well. Because I've always found, as my career kind of developed, that at the early stages, I was very what I would call busy. So I was trying to apply everything to the chart that I possibly could to try and find this magic solution. I found as I kind of matured as a trader, what I actually did was remove a lot of noise, find what I considered quite a simple overlay strategy to work out elements like bias, and then work out conditions for trading, and then work out the patterns or the execution points or triggers that I needed to trigger in that environment to add that kind of 3 layers of confluence, if you like. And I think that a lot of the traders I've been fortunate enough to interview over the years have kind of said that it was quite similar for them, really, that actually the more your understanding grows, the more you're able to strip away the noise, have the confidence in what your read is on the market, but as importantly, be confident in the way that you execute it. And with that in mind, what would you say is the hardest lesson for you, during this market? Was there a point that you got overconfident and maybe then went into a large period of drawdown? Was there actually a point that you found it quite easily for a while before you really hit that kind of brick wall, which a lot of people do? Is there something that stands out for you as a really kind of, that baptism of fire, if you want, for a better term, something that was really kind of a difficult wall for you to get through?
What's hard, I think, is really accepting probabilities. Like, you can have a very good setup and you can lose in 1 minute after, and you might wonder, was it really a good setup? Like, why there is no hesitation, at least some kind of hesitation, before taking me out? Why it's so spectacularly wrong? It's the same set of rules, but it's just part of probabilities. You need to accept. You can do something good and have a very bad outcome, and that's usually different from the real world,
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good and interesting point, right? Because I don't think the psychological aspect of trading is probably covered as much as it should be. because it's like you said there, the first thing that creeps into my mind there is looking back on my early career and the doubt. So feeling like I had a trade setup that should have worked. And again, that term comes in, should have worked. Should it have worked? Not really. You need to think about it in terms of probability. And for me, that comes to understanding your data, to understand that, okay, look, I'm looking to win 6 out of 10 of these, for example. Like, not all of them are going to work. And as perfect as a setup looks, and I know the feeling as well doing intraday trading, because you can be wrong in an instant, right? And you can sit there and you can have all the conviction in the world, but coming to terms with that, especially for me as somebody that's got quite an extrovert personality, I suppose one of the struggles for me was the kind of admission that I was wrong, or maybe the want to be right. I wanted to enforce my will onto the market rather than just accept that, look, I'm playing a game of statistics, I'm playing a game of probability here, and I need to accept that when I'm wrong, but ultimately at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, in the P&L, the strategy washes through, right? But controlling your own mindset and controlling your emotions, especially, I think, are such really big things. And kind of looking at that, what would you say really motivates you for trading, right? Do you get up every day and you think, look, and money isn't the wrong answer, by the way. I see the look in some traders' faces when we ask this question. They think like money's the devil. It's not, right? Look, everybody has that want to drive themselves, to improve their lives, improve the lives of their loved ones. But is there something specific that motivates you every day?
I mean, the fact is that in trading, I believe that there is a very high barrier of entry. So it's really hard to make money initially. So, you have $100, you make $10 a month. You might say like, oh, what can I do with $10? It's nothing. But in reality, it's the same level of difficulty. Making 10% in $100 is the same as making 10,000 on 100. It's literally the same.
Absolutely.
So it's an extremely high barrier of entry, but eventually it should get easier. So now I want to enjoy that easier part. So
I love it. Enjoy there's a saying, isn't there? Enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? As in, you go, things don't come easily, I don't think, in any real industry, but being involved in trading for such a long time, very, very similar time to yourself, kind of sort of like 7-8 years. I think that you see what people go through in that, and I think it's a difficult game to succeed in for a number of reasons, right? But I think when you get to a point that you're comfortable with yourself, your psychology, your system, then it really does come down to a point of execution, right? And whatever that is that does motivate you to do that, whether it be, being more successful, and whatever that means, whether that's financial reward, whether that's lifestyle, right? Whether that's your success rate, or possibly growing communities, or, growing a fund, or whatever that be. I think the key is to maybe understand what those motivations are, but also I think, when you get to that kind of level, it's then about sustaining that motivation and that hunger. I think sometimes I've seen that before with people in any industry, whether it be sport, trading, anything across finance, especially, which I was involved in. You can get that kind of hunger to drive yourself to that level. When you get to that level, sustaining it can be very, very different. So it's quite nice actually to hear that you're just really comfortable with yourself, where you are, the journey you've been on. And now you see it as one where you're like, you know what? I want to enjoy this now. I want to enjoy this stage that I'm at in my career, which I'm not sure everybody does enough. I think I always try and remind myself when I look at my psychology to inflect sometimes and say, look, remember the journey you've been on, remember what it's taken to get here, and don't always be constantly trying to fight and kind of push for the next step. Enjoy some of what you've done to this point. So I think that's a really, really lovely point to kind of end on, actually. But there is one thing I'd really love to ask you as well before we go, which is, you've been with us at BrightFunded for a couple of years now, which I think is fantastic. What was the key things that attracted you to BrightFunded, and what is it that keeps you here? Because you're a very successful trader, you understand prop firms very well. You could pretty much, choose amongst any that you would like. So what is it that kind of keeps you with us?
So I think BrightFunded, at the time when I found it, I think it was running a very good promo. So that's why I joined. But I don't join all the companies with good promos, because most of them are just rug pulls, right? So I heard BrightFunded added their own tech.
Yeah.
So, which means they put money up front. So I guess it reduces the chances of being a bad companies, you know, because they commit. Usually, rug pulls are white labels, and they just very shady. So BrightFunded didn't seem shady at all. So at the time, I think I joined a few months after it launched. There were no complaints or anything. So all these factors together, I tried it, and has been very well since. No problems. I had no problems with BrightFunded so far. So conditions are great. Payouts are also fast.
And what more can you ask for as well, right? So I think one of the real consistent themes that we can see through you is you're a guy that works very hard to get what you want. When you get there and you understand what it is that you want, you're very happy to stick with it. And I think that applies to your trading style and also your choice of prop firm. So I think it's been really, really interesting for me, Luca, today to kind of learn a little bit more about you. To find another exceptional Italian trader as well, which is great. As I said, I've got a lot of Italian family myself, so I know they'll be watching this with great interest. But I'd just like to thank you on behalf of BrightFunded, myself as well, and obviously all of our viewers for joining us today, and to wish you the very best on your trading career moving forward. Now, one thing I would like to leave everybody with is I believe that you are under the term, is it real solo trading? If people want to find you over on Twitter? X.
I have some presence on social media. Right now I'm using Twitter, X, and YouTube. My handle is Real Solo Trading. And my username is Solo Trading. So sometimes I post. I'm not too active, but sometimes I do post.
Quality over quantity, as we say, with social media, which is fantastic. I'll tell you what we'll do, guys, is we'll make sure to get you all of Luca's details in there as well, so you can follow him over at X, Twitter, and obviously over on YouTube and anything else he expands into in the future. So for now, Luca, I just want to say a very, very big thank you from all of us over at BrightFunded. Wish you the very best with your trading career moving forward, for which obviously we'll all be keeping a very close eye on. And I hope to do this again later down the line and find out more about your successes.
Okay, thank you for inviting me.
Very welcome. Take care, my friend. Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, that was absolutely fantastic. What a great interview. Great insights from a super, super talented trader. So I do hope you watch onto that. Please do go and follow Luca over on Twitter or X, and also on YouTube, where you can keep up to date with everything that he's doing. And we do really look forward to seeing you over with us soon at BrightFunded.